Hello and welcome to this new video. In this one we're going to discuss the new pre-release of CashScript, namely version 0.10, which has a bunch of new features. Namely, it brings greatly improved debugging workflow to CashScript with three main items. So console.log statements, so you can do checks and print variables or statements to the console. Then require statement error messages, so now you can have custom error messages when a require statement fails. And then third, a bit.ide integration. So we'll take a look at the details in a bit, but let's just follow this announcement thread from a month ago. So this was work done by Main at Pat. It was funded in his Flipstarter to add proper debugging tools to CashScript. So this is the continuation of Pat's work, so be sure to give him a follow. And let's read more into the details. So in this pre-release, Pat added some very important functionality that will make developing on CashScript much easier. So console.log statements and require statement error messages. A big part of development is understanding what your code is actually doing. And anyone that has developed on BCH knows that it can be very hard to do so for BCH smart contracts. But with these new features, that's much easier. So let's take a look at this example contract. So it simply says it has a function called test, and it takes an integer value provided by the user on spending. And then this value, so the integer, will be logged together with the string test. So you will first see your value and then test. And then the require says the value provided by the user needs to equal 1. And if this does not match, the custom error will be thrown saying wrong value passed. So here in this example, you see both the console.log example and the custom error messages. So in this workflow, you will, as a developer, gain much more insight into what your contract is actually doing when you try to make a transaction. So here it explains it in more detail. So console.log statements allow you to log values during the execution of your contract, and require statement error messages allow you to understand better why your transaction might have failed. Both of the features only apply when evaluating these transactions locally, so they add no blow to your mainnet transactions. They integrate very well with automated test framework like Jest, so you can easily check that your contract behaves as expected. So this is very important. Let's actually take a look. So if you want to use a testing framework, for example, Jest, then you could do something like this. You initiate a contract, initiate the provider, and then you add a random UTXO to the contract. And then you try to spend from the contract with the function example function to a certain address. And then you wait for something to happen. So for example, expect the transaction to fail with wrong value passed. And these slashes are for regex. So the error contains the string wrong value passed. So this way you can do, you can write tests for your smart contracts and be sure that the edge cases behave as you expect. So this is very nice to have this integrated directly into CashScript itself. So you can use the Jest extensions from the CashScript library. And then lastly, the last item here was the bit.ide integration. So bit.ide is a development environment on web for writing low-level scripts for Bitcoin Cash. So this is what it looks like. So this is a screenshot. And here you have the unlock. So this is the same contract that we took a look at before. So the test function takes one value, which is an int. And then here is the locking contract, which can be unlocked by this integer. And as we said before, it just has the console.log and the require statement. So the console.log doesn't translate to any opcodes. And the require statement of value equals 1 translates in the low-level scripting language of Bitcoin Cash to op0, op-roll, op1, and then op num equal. So here you can also do low-level debugging. You can follow at the right-hand side, you can follow the stack. So this is a very simple example, but for large smart contracts, it might be very handy to see actually what's happening in the compiled language and what's happening on the stack line by line. And this line mapping is a very valuable feature added by Pat, so you can really see which require message maps to which opcodes. So this will be a super handy tool for debugging. And then let's see how you actually get started with this. A full release of this functionality is coming after a more rigorous testing and some refactoring, but we did not want to wait with deploying this functionality since it's incredibly exciting. You can explore our debugging and testing guide in our docs. And then you can install this new release under the next tag on npm. You'll need to update both the compiler and SDK to this new version, to use the new functionality, and you use it by npm install next, npm install cashc at next, so this is for the compiler, and npm install CashScript at next, so this is for the normal CashScript library. And lastly, thanks again to mainnet Pat for realizing this functionality and making sure make sure to read the full changelog. So if you go to the next website, or so next.cashscript.org, you will see the documentation for the version 10.0.10.0 release, which of course add the console.log statements, extend the require statements to allow for custom error messages, and then something technical, update the artifact format to allow for these new debugging features. And then here in the SDK, we can see the jest utilities for the testing framework, the bit.ly IDE integration, and here there's also a new mock network provider to simulate network interactions. So these are the full changelogs you can read here in the release notes on next.cashscript.org, and which will be integrated into the mainline CashScript library after some more rigorous testing and refactoring. So one more thing is that we recently, just 2 days ago, updated the CashScript playground to include these new features. So if you use the playground today, you'll see much more detailed error messages and debugging information. For example, let's take a look at the screenshot. Here it also has a simple test contract. It says transfer with one require statement. If you look at it, it says transaction.output 0.value needs to be larger than 10,000 satoshis, or it will throw the error you did not spend enough money. And when we try to initiate this contract with only 1,000 satoshis, we see that the CashScript, the playground.cashscript.org gives an alert saying transaction failed with reason, test.cash on line 5, so that's our require statement. Error in evaluating input index 0, so that's the input that we're trying to spend. Did not spend enough money from the contract, so that's our custom error message. And then it also includes the bit.ly IDE link if you want to do the low-level debugging. So you can use this today, these new features from the version 0.10.0 next release in the CashScript playground. So note one thing, if you use an older version, this will compile because it has the greater than sign before it. But if you still use the other notation like this, then it will not compile. It will require, it will give you an error message. So if you try to compile this, it will say the compiler CashC version 0.10.0 does not satisfy with version constraint 0.8.0. So this requires a strict version, so it can only work with the compiler with version 0.8.0. So if you simply use the other notation, which greater than version 0.8.0, then you will see it compile as expected. And if you fill in the parameters and make a contract, you will see these custom error messages and these bit.ly links, which are the new integration. So if you want to check out the code of the CashScript playground, you can always go to the CashScript repo or the CashScript organization on GitHub, and then go to CashScript playground. So the old one has been archived. So CashScript playground. For example, you can see here in the latest commit that we updated the version of 0.9.2 to the next version, so 0.10.0-next.2. So if you find this repo useful, be sure to leave a star, so it signals to other people that they should use also use the CashScript playground. So I think that about covers it. And one more thing I would like to show off is the showcase section on the CashScript website. So on cashscript.org, just got a lot more features or a lot more items to showcase. So it already had AnyHedge before and TapSwap, but now you can always also see the BitCat Heroes, the Cash Ninjas, BCH Guru, the Cash Token Studio, Beach House or BCH House, and Unspent.fi. So these are some of the cool projects actually built with CashScript. So I hope this inspires some of you to build the next big application with CashScript. So thank you for watching this video and see you in the next one. Bye bye.